Meeting's called to order, 9 o'clock. First order of business is the pledge of allegiance. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
If we could just stay standing for a moment in memory of our dearly departed friend Dan Hughes, who served so illustriously on this committee and in many, many endeavors and with respect to the town of Fort Myers Beach. Dan was a good friend to all of us, and I just wanted to take a moment of silence to commemorate his memory. First order of business will be the organization. I'm going to turn the meeting over to the mayor to conduct the elections for both the chairman and vice chairman.
Okay, Mr. Chairman. First is for the chair. So we'll, at this time, we'll take nominations from the floor for position of chairman.
Before we entertain nominations, I just want to say that I made it pretty clear at the last meeting that I would take the chairmanship temporarily, but I didn't intend to, I have no intent to be nominated again or to serve as chairman, the next chairman.
In light of that, I nominate Jim Steele.
I'll second that.
If I may respond, I think the chairman needs to be someone that's here year-round. And I'm gone for 4 months in the summer, if that's an issue.
I don't think so. I think your level of expertise certainly outweighs any temporary physical presence from the island. You're still reachable through mail, text, so I think you're certainly the most qualified of the ones that are willing to accept.
Nice try, Jim. Any other nominations? All right, we'll close the nominations. All in favor of Jim Steele for chairman of the audit committee, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? You're unanimously named the chairman. I'll turn it over to you, Mr. Chairman. You can handle the vice chair.
Thank you, Mayor. Do we have nominations for vice chairman?
Ed, you willing to do it? Sure. I nominate Ed Lombard.
Second.
Any other nominations? Nominations are closed. All in favor? Aye.
Jim, you want to sit here? Can you bring a seat? Oh, jeez.
Okay.
Face the cameras, come on.
There's a whole pass the gavel ceremony and so forth, if you can afford that.
Pass the checker.
All right, let's go to the next item on the agenda, approval of minutes for June 1st, 2021.
Mr. Chairman, the minutes were rather creative. They describe a situation that I don't remember occurring, which was that you were named the chairman the last meeting. That's not what happened. I haven't reformulated that part of the minutes, but I suggest they be redone, or at least that part of the minutes be redone.
I concur. It says audit committee member Ed Lombard declined the position. And I remember distinctly he did not decline the position. So he was still the chairman, but then I was nominated and elected as vice chair. If we can correct the minutes to reflect that. Anything else on the minutes? All in favor of approving the minutes as corrected, signify by aye.
Aye.
Aye. Public comment. Anyone from the public have any comment? Seeing none, public comment is concluded. Next item on the agenda is items for discussion. Town financial reports, which the town had submitted a financial report over a week ago for review. Any questions from committee members or any comments from the town manager?
Okay, so much on the mic. Mike? Yeah, okay, good. Good morning, everybody, and thank you for your participation and volunteering to be on our audit committee again. We sincerely appreciate that. We have been working very hard to stabilize our financial team. We have two members who I'm going to have them introduce themselves in a second, and they're being assisted by a long-standing CPA who, besides having private clients, has extensive expertise in local government from Bishop Rosasco. Mr. Rosasco lives on the phone. We are continuing to pursue finding a permanent finance director. Right now, it's been a very competitive market, and most people that we were interested in were not willing to relocate here for the pay we have available for the position, but we continue to look for that and put out ads and feelers every week. The item on your agenda, Mr. Chairman, I have talked to the financial staff and I have told them that they are to have the financial report for the previous month ready by the middle of the next month, so you receive the middle of November, you'll receive October's report, and so on going into the future, and that will be distributed to you all electronically for when you're here or not here to review and forward any questions or comments you have if you're not having a meeting. But it's our commitment to get that to you and to use the expertise of the committee to help us plan the town's financial future in a positive way. So I know it has been lacking in the past, and I do apologize for that. We've had transition of a variety of people, including one who didn't really think closing the months on a timely basis was an important thing, and we've made a change there, and we now have staff who understand the importance of getting that information not only to you, but the town councils and the public. So we will be doing that. And to the extent you have any individual questions, we'll try to answer those today.
Any members have any questions on the audit?
Well, I'm going to react to some of the, I just have a few questions on the financial statement that we were given. I was curious about the, I noted that revenues greatly exceeded the budget amounts. I'm looking at the stormwater, I'm looking at the stormwater.
What page?
Page 10. Apparently we had a transfer of $1,035,000, but we only budgeted $310,000. I wonder if somebody could explain that particular item.
I believe that the stormwater used to not be broken down that way. I'm not exactly sure what the difference was there. I've been only here since May. So I'm still learning what happened last year and why it was budgeted so low.
So it was, you believe it was budgeted low?
Well, it's a transfer in, so I'm not sure what the money was brought in for. So it was budgeted for 319, it could be bringing in money for, it's not the loan, I'm not sure what it was for.
I would have expected it probably came from the loan fund
Into there,
into there because they were spending money faster than they had
and
anticipated.
brought it in, that's very possible. I will find out though, and give you some details.
We had an amount budgeted for other services, $1,250,000, none of that was used. I'm wondering
And which fund is that?
Still stormwater.
For some water?
why? Yeah, stormwater.
I will find out about that one too.
Okay, and then we had the storm drain system, which went, which was budgeted for zero, if I understand that one. But actually, the expenditure was $2.3 million, over $2.3 million, and that,
I believe what's happening there with that one, because it's a 6,000 level or 60,000 level account, it's a capital account, and that was the fund, the loans are ran through there. So it's the loan, the stormwater, the sinking funds are not budgeted for, but we run the expenses through there and then bring the funds back in once we're reimbursed for those.
okay.
Excuse me, Mr. Chairman. Did the ladies have a chance to identify themselves and introduce themselves to you in their positions?
I don't believe they had.
Why don't, I think you should maybe do that.
I am Sherry Russ. I came to the town in May, and I believe I met you in one of the last two
Yes.
meetings. So right now I'm serving as budget manager and overseeing the accounts receivable, accounts payable. And we have had pretty much full turnover upstairs, but we are very confident in the team that we have up there now.
I'm Joan Renato. I've been here on a full-time basis about 2 months. My background is corporate accounting. I have extensive experience in auditing for many years. Leading an audit is something that I'm comfortable with. I've had the pleasure of actually speaking with Wade from the audit company. He is helpful, prompt in providing information, and prompt in actually providing us with a listing already to start the audit. So I find everything in order.
Welcome aboard.
Thank
And
you.
who's on the phone from, is it Bishop
Rosasco.
Rosasco?
We have Peter on the phone.
Peter Zosko.
Peter Rosasco, okay. Welcome, Peter.
And his job is?
So Peter Zosko is a long-term government CPA, as well as has a private practice. And with the new staff, with little transition to the old staff, we wanted them to have a resource to go to if they had questions or needed guidance on what to do in a particular situation. So Peter is, while he's not physically here in the building, he's meeting with them telephonically and via Zoom as necessary to assist them with the questions and provide the staff with any guidance they need with respect to carrying out the day-to-day tasks as well as the quarterly and monthly tasks and annual tasks that we need to do to for the town's financial stability and security.
And where is their firm located?
Their principal location, I believe, is in the Florida Keys.
Do you have an office in the area somewhere?
No, he does not.
Okay.
But we just entered into the arrangement with him a short time ago, and if it becomes a long-term arrangement, we can talk to him about doing that. But right now, it's just to hopefully get us through this period of time until we can find a full-time finance director. And Peter's aware of that.
How many other people on the finance staff?
We have 2 others. And of course, One of the things with Joan and Sherry that we talked about is that we are a team bigger than the finance department upstairs. We're a team of the entire 50 town employees. We have other employees who could report to mayor if they need extra sets of hands to get things done, and they're aware of that, and then we'll call on those people should a need arise.
So just out of curiosity, Roger, there's 2 more finance staff.
Right, there's an accountant one and an accounts payable person, and we have one other person who's a temporary who we're pilot testing to see if she'll be a good fit with us moving forward.
So the staff that's been around for the last couple of years, are there any of those left?
No,
And is the assistant finance director position vacant at this time?
yes,
So, Roger, you also mentioned that the difficulty in recruiting is salary and getting someone to relocate to this beautiful island for that salary. Has there been consideration of increasing the salary discussions with anyone?
well, the council agreed to augment the salary as part of this year's budget, so we're now beginning to advertise at that higher amount, and we'll see if that will be successful.
All right, any other questions on the financial statements?
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
I just want to go back to what Mr. Lombard said originally, which is that the overall revenues were strong, although perhaps underestimated. I would have to get that, have that be lost.
There was a question about about the possibility of additional loans from the revolving fund for the stormwater project. Is that still, I remember there was some confusion about whether or not there was going to be a $20 million loan, and which the former finance director.
Right, so just to be clear, I think, just so we don't confuse each other, we should talk about the amount of money we're borrowing, whether it's 1 loan, 2 loans, or an amount that's being added to an existing loan shouldn't really be the question at hand. What's the question at hand is how much debt are we taking upon ourselves? So the answer to your question was that the loan was piggybacked. So that's what wasn't a new $20 million loan, as I recall, but it was a piggyback on an existing loan, up to $20 million.
How much has been drawn down to date?
So we finished all of the joint outfalls with the county. We're doing the numbered streets in the downtown area because we had to realign our priorities to try to get out of the way of the redevelopment that's going on down there. So that was going to be the third project, became the second project. And now what was the second project, which is what we call the hot streets or the tier 1 streets, which were the actual streets that had known flooding problems. There's 16 or 17, I can't remember right off the top of my head. And that's the project that will be beginning this fiscal year. And that takes us to the $26 million number in round numbers that we originally contemplated for the stormwater. Going back to Jim, your original calculations, that puts us in that ballpark.
The streets that still need the outfalls, are they pretty much spread throughout the island? Are they mostly south, or are they mostly?
They're kind of spread, but this was the result of the master plan developed by Tetra Tech. As you may recall, at the very beginning, there was a master plan developed by Tetra Tech. They evaluated all the streets. The streets that had minor flooding problems but were high were picked for the joint outflow streets because they had the capability, since they weren't generating too many drainage problems themselves, they could take on the drainage issues of Estero. So that's why those streets were picked for the joint outflow streets. And then the streets that were low-lying and had medium to severe flooding issues of their own, those are what they call the tier 1 streets. Now, there's also a tier 2 and tier 3 that go beyond that. The tier 2 are streets that are, really warrant further review, not really clear if they would significantly benefit from a drainage project. And then the tier 3 streets are the ones that basically, at this point, have been dry, and unless something changes, we assume will remain dry.
How much longer, I mean, is the project pretty much on schedule under, I think the last I heard, maybe first quarter of next year or second quarter next year?
Well, the number streets is supposed to end in April, and notwithstanding any acts of God, I would assume that the tier 1 streets will be done. We don't have a schedule from a contractor yet, it's too early for that, but I would say the end of '23.
23?
Yeah, because it's 17 streets that'll be done in that tier 1. So, and to, I mean, what we try not to do is have, if we'd have people on the streets, we can go in and lay the stormwater in, and then lay the water in, and go street by street by street, and come back and resurface, but that's too disruptive in a town that's this small. So we kind of got to get one street open and closed, with temporary asphalt, before we can move on to the next one. So it's kind of like a domino type of thing. And while that adds time, it minimizes the disruption. So we're erring on that. But
So Estero Boulevard will essentially be finished, that is the widening and so forth, down to the south end of the island sometime early next year.
they're saying that they'll be done with everything except the final punch list and final lift of asphalt. They're saying by the end of this calendar year. They're saying that the punch list items and the final list of asphalt will be into '22.
I will make a prediction that they aren't going to make the end of this year.
Okay, well, they gave the council an update. Yeah, they gave the council an update on Monday, or we can go Monday, and that, Thursday, this past Thursday. That's what they said. If you recall, not this January, but the prior January or December, I had said that basically they were working here at the town council meeting, they would not be done on time.
Yeah.
Now, they have added a second contractor recently to try to help stay on schedule. But I tend to agree with you, it's going to leak into 20
you've got 6 weeks to do everything from Albatross down.
I'm just saying what they're saying, I'm not saying I'm betting my life on it.
How much longer will we be paying off this revolving fund?
Well, and it's actually sort of good news. The good news is the state has, when we take a loan and instead of pulling a new loan, add to that loan, that existing loan, that keeps that loan open. And therefore, it defers to when the first payment is due. So that has really worked in our favor. So the good news is we haven't really had to make a whole lot of payments. I think we're just starting our second series of payments this fiscal year. So that's good news. Bad news is that it's the beginning of, I believe, a 20-year term.
So it's going to be, those new water rates, the rates that were raised to accommodate the loan is going to be a long-lasting affair.
Well, there are issues, in front of council in the upcoming future that may or may not affect that. One of which is, town's going to receive approximately $3.5 million in American Rescue Funds from the federal government. You follow the news, that's where probably the first time in my 40 years of government where the federal government made a direct allocation to municipalities. their normal means is they make obligations to states, states make them to counties, counties make them to their incorporated areas of the city. This was the first time we got basically a direct allocation of federal funds from the federal
What
government.
was that total again?
3.5 over 2 years.
Do you know the,
So
We got your first check already.
we got the first check already, so now the question is, as a matter of policy, will the council utilize that to minimize the cost of the stormwater/water program, or use it for other things? And they're going to be having a discussion of that in the next month or two.
the federal government is is in the throes of an infrastructure war. I can't think of a better example of infrastructure than what we've got right here.
Ms. Lombard, to tell you, Byron Donalds called me at the very beginning, right when he got elected, and was asking me about my thoughts about the very early discussions about, the infrastructure program. I told him, I said, you want to see, the perfect example of an infrastructure program coming to the town of Fort Myers in the future. And recently we have. But we talked about it over the phone and explaining that, our 7,000 residents are picking up a $60 million tab here between water and stormwater. And, that type of behavior should be rewarded by the federal, state, and county governments, because many other areas are, hiding from those responsibility, particularly for coastal communities where water quality is such an important element to our overall economic strength, that they should be doing things to encourage that type of behavior in any way, shape, or form that they can. So, I don't know where the infrastructure bill will shake out in terms of, trickle down money to us, but I think I gave you a pretty good primer on how it's been successful in the town of Fort Myers Beach, and how it would be even better if they continue to be supported at the county, state, for
The best way to get into that is having strong communications with our local congressmen, whether it's state or federal congressmen.
Byron Downs is a local congressman, and of course, we also, lobby extensively in Tallahassee for funding, and we have received funding for our projects through Tallahassee. Frankly, I wish it was more, but at the end of the day, we will be doing another rate study, not now, but probably, I'm going to say 23. And just to check out where we are as we complete the projects, to see if we have enough money from the rate increases to meet our obligations. And hopefully by grants and other funding that has come in, perhaps we can either reduce it or be able to say that that'll be the rate for the next 10 years for stabilization.
Jim? Roger, we've talked about the stormwater and the water, but, and it keeps going back, and I know you and I have had this discussion where the dialogue gets that we're adding, additional money. We talked about the 20 million once before, and how it really wasn't another 20 million. It was all part of the original dollar amounts. I know Jim understands this and that better than I do, but that's one set of loans. We also have the infrastructure loans, or the loans that are going for Times Square, Bayfront Park, etc. Is it possible to get from the finance office, here are existing loans, the status of those loans, here are some potential, like we know we've got the potential for lighting coming down our way here, and getting that summary of what the total debt is currently for the town, what there's projected for these additional 17 or beyond if we get to tier 3 or wherever else they may want to go. But kind of that summary, and maybe, Ray, you're the mayor, maybe you understand the loans and where we are and where we're going and what the burden is to the community, and if you do, then if the council does, then that's fine. I personally don't know that full analysis, and I think that it may be beneficial if this group looked at that full analysis of debt to projected debt to monies coming in and giving kind of a summary to the council. Thoughts?
Well, a couple of things. One is we'd be glad to share the information with you. So let me just, I know I don't have to refresh Jim's memory, but basically tell you the thing from a 50,000 foot view. So the original stormwater program was approximately $40 million in water improvements and roughly $20 million in stormwater improvements. And those numbers may have gone to 42 or 26, but basically they were in that framework. So, and all of those loans are being done through the state of Florida, State Revolving Fund Program. And fortunately, the town's timing with respect to interest rates, those are 1% loan interest loans. So that, and those are enterprise funds that have their own funding source. And I'm going to say a little less than a year ago, maybe a year ago, we had a rate consultant come in, look at our existing loans, look at our anticipated loans, and recommend a rate structure to carry us through the next several years to meet those obligations. And that's what the latest series of rate adjustments were predicated on. So that takes care of the utility loans, if you will. As it pertains to the $10 million loan for the big three projects, Bayside Park, Times Square, and Bay Oaks, that's a bank loan. We budgeted money in the general fund. We need to make those payments back. We are making those payments back. The day the loan got taken out was the day we started making the loan payments back. The way that loan is structured, it's a 3-year drawdown, 7-year pay down, and then you have a balloon that gets refinanced based on the prevailing interest rates. So our thoughts are to pay that down as much as we can between now and when it rolls over for sort of round 2. And that's why we started making payments on day 1 rather than wait till even all the drawdowns happen. So we have the money budgeted to fund that loan, we believe, through the 10 years, and we believe possibly to whatever has to go beyond 10 years until it's paid off. Now that's a general fund obligation, so obviously that's subject to budgeting, but obviously in the future council, with respect to plans set forth by the current council, have to address that situation. So that's the only loans we have right now. I mean, we have minor equipment loans where we're just paying something on an installment plan, but nothing of any significance. So those are the 3 loans that we have. Just to perhaps help you understand on the general fund loan, what we did is we found as part of our general fund revenue, a state revenue source that matched the annual payment of that loan, and we sort of loosely tied those together. We pledged that as the primary source. So it's not property taxes. So it's actually a state revenue that comes to the town that's paying that loan. Now, obviously, if we weren't using it for the loan, we would have it available for the things. But internally, we've tied that to the loan, and through the loan documents, we pledged that as the first source of revenues.
Roger, when do you anticipate the auditors will make the adjusting entries to the report we've got?
Okay, well, Sherry and John have been in touch with them. We've been just providing them with information. I don't know if they've given us a schedule yet.
Yeah, they have. They've actually given us access to the portal, so I have full access. They're beginning to ask for balance sheet reconciliations. Very standard at this point, nothing in detail. He does now have our trial balance as well. I don't see any material differences. I expect him to find the same. So as far as adjusting opening entries is what I'm thinking you're
Yeah.
referring to, I'm saying it's gonna be minimal. So from what I see.
And he's giving you a time frame for that?
He has not.
Okay.
Because this, initially I asked for the portal just last week. So I've just been going through it now and
Okay.
preparing my reconciliation, so it's just beginning.
All right, thank you. Any other questions on the financial report?
Yeah, well, I still want to finish up on the loan, so I understood 70 million. I'm just thinking that having this summary serves a couple purposes. One is a reminder or keeping the council aware that there's 70 million in debt for 7,000 roughly residents. But also, as we just talked about, and Ed brought up, and you've been talking to the congressman, I think having this summary and showing exactly what we put in and what the investment is against the people, having that document that the council is well aware of and other people that may want to write to their congressman around this money, I think that would be a good way for them to have that understanding and maybe put a campaign together to help reach out to the congressman or other representatives. And also going forward, it's 70 million now. Any more expenditures on there, add to that. I understand the sources that you're talking about, Roger. One is paid for through the fees. The other is you're using state money. I mean, I don't question the financial wisdom and the way you're putting it together. It's just the transparency of, it's a rather large deficit debt that the number of taxpayers carry. But I also think there's an advantage to having that in looking at the rescue funds and then looking at the infrastructure bill as some of that, most of that money's already allocated. I mean, I just read this morning in New York, they've already pretty much allocated their 30% of that money. But the idea is that having that, we may be able to get some more and supplying that kind of information to our lobbyists in a summary form like that. I just think there's an advantage to that. That's just.
Well, we don't have any problem providing the information that it's, you know, it's something that, you know, we, the staff of the council talk about all the time. You know, I know that most of you watch council meetings from time to time, but you have to remember that most of the councils meet with me on a one-on-one basis every week, and we talk about these types of issues and where we are and so on and so forth. So, but to the extent that more people have that knowledge and that information, and that knowledge then can be converted into political power / will to maybe get more money, that's right.
Yeah, I mean, I don't question the financial process. You've done a brilliant job in the way you've handled finances for the town. The rates you're getting and everything else is great, but I really think that having that message out, especially now when you have the rescue funds coming down, you get the infrastructure funds coming down, and the amount of debt that really exists here, that was all done primarily for, the majority of it was for improving infrastructure, the clean water that it brought, all those things are what this particular Congress has been touting. And so now is the right time before they don't have the power in 2022.
Yeah. So clearly, we're going to do everything we can to. I mean, we're really, you know, I don't want to say $1 million hounds. We're really like dollar hounds here. You know, all the staff is exploring grand opportunities. I just notified. Excuse me. I just notified the council on Friday. We received a $1 million grant for Bay Oaks project. So we're constantly doing what we can. Yeah, we borrow the money. Or the thing we don't want to do is say if we have a $10 million project, we don't want to fund it at $8 million and say that, well, maybe we'll get grants for $2 million. But what we do is we fund it for $10 million, and then we try to find the grants for 2 or more to bring that number down. So we now figured out a way to get $1 million for the Times Square project. We figured out a way to get $1 million for the Bay Oaks project, and while the 8 of us in here chatting, The staff, we get things from the League of Cities and other things, and from the state, and federal government, they're constantly exploring grant opportunities. All with the purpose of bringing the cost to our taxpayers / ratepayers down. If not right now, in the future.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions, comments? All right, let's move on to member items and reports. John? Member items and reports?
I have nothing.
Yep.
Jim? So I have one non-member item.
Okay.
But John got it alluded to it, and that is, we have a sort of a number of issues pending within the county. Lighting is one of them. Crosswalks is one of them, and there's probably a longer list that if it wasn't Monday morning, I'd probably think of. My point is, and I think you know this, Jim, and I think members of this committee may know this, whenever we get into these situations within the county, it's always, if you want it, you have to pay for it. And if you, and by the way, besides having to pay for it, you have to assume the liability of wherever you're putting whatever it is. So, as was said the other day, historic billboards are Main Street for our town. It's not owned or maintained by us. And every time we want to try to do something to enhance it, we have to go to the county, hat in hand, if you will. So, this is going to be an ongoing issue for the town. We really need to do what we can to help the county understand that we are residents of Lee County. We pay Lee County taxes, so that when the county says they spent $80 million, repairing Historic Boulevard, they're not doing us a favor, they're doing their job. When they say they're going to spend $1 million to, redo the bridge at the south end, they're doing us a favor, they're doing their job. And by the way, we're paying into them, and we are a donor community to them, even with those two big projects. So we really need to hopefully adjust their line of thought to understand that every investment they make in Fort Myers Beach pays off for them in multitude. And I don't, anything we can do to overcome their reluctance should be not only an issue of this committee and town council, but the community at large.
I suspect that one of the reasons why we aren't getting a little more from out of the county is because of our independent town status. And if we were truly dependent on the county and the county commissioners, they might pay a little more attention to us. Not that I'm arguing that we shouldn't have independent town status. I'm just saying that's probably one of the reasons why we don't get better attention from them.
I don't necessarily disagree with you. You hope to think that, people perhaps who were on the county commission at the time have gotten over it now. It's been 20 years, I mean, you've been divorced for 20 years. It's about time to start, stop fighting with your ex-wife, so to speak. But we'll see what happens. But at the end of the day, my experience, and I worked in a county that had 34 municipalities, as well as an equally large unincorporated area. And what we came to understand is that if the incorporated areas weren't doing well too, at the end of the day, it weren't done the county. You can't just get by on how well the unincorporated areas do. Really, and particularly here where we serve as the playground not only for ourselves, the counties. There's 66 counties people come here from the state of Florida, the other 50 states, and international. So they're all fighting their way over through the traffic over that bridge to come here and spend some time with us, which we sincerely appreciate. So the better we make it, the safer we make it, the better experience we can give those people, the more likely they'll come back, or perhaps move here or whatever. So it's in their best interest to help us be successful.
You said we're a donor community. Do we have the sources and that we supply, our revenues that we collect and what we get back on a category basis, like sales tax, et cetera?
Well, I think a lot of people sort of, when they think about that, John, they think about it from the perspective of towards development. For some reason, that's the first thing that comes to people's heads. But a guy like Jim will know. He'd probably tell you if you want to do a comparison to ask him, but how much of his property tax bill goes to the county versus the fire district versus the library versus other things. But if you take over the 20-year history of the town, even incorporated, and look at what the town has paid in countywide taxes to Lee County, okay? It's a lot larger number than they've spent on these two projects than anything else is done here for us.
And again, by having documented that, I understand what you're saying, and I look well beyond the tourist tax. There's the bed tax, the sales tax, all those things that they do an allocation on. If we have that summary, and so when Ray is negotiating, or any of the council members, yourselves are negotiating, having that and having that out again with the public understanding that to put pressure on their county commissioner versus.
Yeah, we don't disagree with that. It's just really a matter of time. So, but we do have that information. It is, the interchanges with the county are, it's really point counterpoint. So, we don't really want to put our counterpoints out there too early. We're starting from the approach of do the right thing. But if they want to get into the weeds about the numbers and other things, we're geared up and to do that.
Mr. Chairman, can I just answer Ed's question? It just comes down to politics, Ed. That's what it's all about. And when the town incorporated, prior to the incorporation, we were always the stepchild of Lee County. I mean, while we were the playground for the county, we were always the stepchild because we had no voice. We had a district commissioner, but the politics of it dictated what happened. The fact of the matter is we only had about 6,000 or 7,000 registered voters in a county of, at that time, maybe 140,000 or whatever, or 540,000, whatever the number was. So in accounting terms, that's insignificant. So, and they know that. So over the years, we have gotten our seat at the table, so to speak, but it's like a big family. You get something accomplished, then you have a fight, and then you resolve it, you kiss and make up, and you move on. And that's what we've been doing with the county all these years. But once in a while, you get some people down there that realize, like Roger's explained here, I mean, we are the goose that lays the golden egg down here. Whether they want to admit it or not, we're the #1 attraction in Southwest Florida. So it behooves everybody to get along and to take care of these projects down here. I had another conversation with another county commissioner this week, and who sees the wisdom in the fact that